Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges? What if I told you there was an ancient philosophy that could equip you with the armor of indifference that will condition you to bear any obstacle? In this video, you will discover the power of Stoicism that, if you learn, can transform your approach to life's toughest moments in 5 practical life lessons. Quite simply, Stoicism, when applied to your life, will make you mentally unbreakable. What is Stoicism? Stoicism is an ancient philosophy that is based on practical principles that you can apply to your life that are focusing on what you can control, keeping things not on the external, but on the internal. Lesson number 1 is focus on what you can control. When the Stoics talked about focusing on what you can control, it relied heavily on what is in your control in your daily life, not keeping your focus on outside events. So for instance, something that you can control every day is your actions, your behaviors. An example of this is you can make the choice to, at the end of your day, to journal, to write in your journal for 3 to 4 minutes. Me, I'm not a big journaler. For me, for example, it's more podcasting. I like the podcast. I like to come put my thoughts out. I like to create things. And that's something that's entirely in my control on when I do that. Another example of this is for people who have a chaotic mind. Mind is always racing. A way to change that and to condition that and to help yourself with those things that you have going on is to meditate, to practice mindfulness, to have some time of solitude. That is something that you can control. This is a big pillar of Stoicism in only focusing on what is in your power. A great quote that encapsulates this is from Epictetus, and he said, "The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil? Not to the uncontrollable externals, but within myself, to the choices that are my own." See, if you digest that quote and really take it in, you will understand the concept of focusing on what you can control and not putting so much weight on things that are not. This is a fundamental pillar of Stoicism. And as I've been learning about Stoicism and just kind of applying it to my life, there's actually a piece that comes from using these principles in your daily life. For instance, if you're having a conversation with somebody and somebody is having a bad day and they bring you some energy that's negative, they start getting angry with you. And when you entered into the conversation, you were chipper, you were feeling great. It helps to understand that, hey, the energy that the person is bringing towards you at that moment is not because of you. It's obviously something that's happened to them in their day. It's obviously something that's going on with them in their life. No one can change how you feel unless you allow it to happen. And Epictetus also had another quote where he says, "Anyone who angers you becomes your master. Anyone who causes you to be angry controls you." So with that in mind, make sure that you're in control of you and you can't be shaken. You can't be deterred. You can't be moving off your square. Embrace discomfort. Oftentimes people think that living a great life is being comfortable and everything being stable and sure and no risk. And that's just not true. That's just not reality. That's just not life. We really find out who we really are when we're uncomfortable, when we've went through challenges and discomfort. Challenging times when there's adversity, For instance, if you've ever played sports, I played sports in college and I played sports in high school as well. During the times when I'm training, during the times when I'm trying to reach a goal and it's difficult, during those times, it's not easy, it's not pretty. However, there's a goal in mind. You're suffering through that pain, through that adversity, through those challenges. But at the end of the day, if you stick with it and you have mental fortitude, it will condition you. It will harden you. It will build your character. It'll build your physical endurance and what have you, but also your mental fortitude and your mental capabilities. A Stoic principle about embracing that discomfort, I think it mentally strengthens your mind to be prepared for the adversity, to not waver from it, to not cower from it, but to move forward towards it wholeheartedly and understand that it's just going to be something that's there. And if we're prepared for it, we can overcome it. A quote by Marcus Aurelius: if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. He's talking about how anything externally that's distressing you, any pain, any trials, tribulations, any unsure feelings, if you're unsure of your financial situation, or if you just lost your job, or if you're going through a tough time, or you just lost a loved one, it's within your power to control where you are mentally. This is a very important concept that if you apply to your life, it could really aid in keeping you in a state of peace and tranquility within. And that's what we're all striving for, at least I hope. This has been helping me a lot in my life, and I hope it's adding value to you as well. Lesson number 3, moving along, accept reality as it is. When thinking about Stoicism, it's based in reason and logic. It's based in what is tangible that we can see, what we can feel, what we know. And it talks about this in ways that we can apply it to our everyday life. So if we can change and reframe the way we look at things, we have control over our reality. One of the great quotes from one of the great Stoic minds, one of my favorite quotes from Seneca is, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And that's so profound because it's so true. For instance, have you ever been nervous or kind of anxious about something that you had coming up? A big job interview. You're trying to get hired at your first big time career job. You're just now graduating from college. You got your degree. You got your suit. You're ready to go and interview, and there's some anxiety there. You're anxious. It's just a natural emotion. Have you noticed that when you're prepared and you understand that you're qualified for the position, and you understand that you know that you have the work ethic to be able to accomplish your goal or to fulfill the requirements of the position, once you actually sit down in front of the people and you're having a conversation and you're putting your best foot forward, all that fear, anxiety, all the turmoil that you put your brain through on the anxiety before that conversation kind of goes out of the window. I know that's just like a minute example, but that's what I think about when I think about us suffering more in imagination than in reality. And another concept that I see when I think about this and that comes to mind is being present. To be stoic is to be in the moment, not in the past or not in the future, but in the here and now, because life is lived in the here and now. And if you have that concept in the back of your mind, you can kind of get rid of all of that anxiety and the anxious thoughts, because that comes from living in the past or worrying too much about the future. Live in the here and now, and you will be successful. You will be at peace. You will be calm because you are completely focused on what's happening right in front of you. So that's what I think of when I think of this concept. Moving on, lesson number 4. Cultivate self-awareness. During my journey here, when it comes to Stoicism self-improvement, I've been becoming more aware of my strengths and my weaknesses. I've realized that I have a curious mind and I'm always trying to learn more about people who know more than me. I'm not a huge reader. So one of my strengths, and I guess not one of my weaknesses, is I would prefer to listen to an audiobook than to pick up an actual book and read it because I like to multitask. That's me being self-aware on just the type of person that I am. However, when it comes to Stoicism, it's something that will always be a part of you, and it's a constant work. You are a constant work in process. I am a constant work in process. And I think there's a beauty in understanding and becoming aware of our shortcomings and where we fall short and where we thrive, and continue to try to make improvements upon that each and every day. I'm going to try to read more because I think there is something I'm lacking when it comes to not always focusing 100% on what's in front of me, and having a book in front of me and reading it will actually help me in that endeavor. Lesson number 4 is simply this: become more self-aware, realize where you fall short, realize where you can improve, and then go after that full bore. A quote from Epictetus about this matter is, "But what does Socrates say? Just as one person delights in improving his farm and another his horse, so I delight in attending to my own improvement day by day." That principle of being aware of what you like, what your interests are, and focusing on your improvement, no matter what that means day by day. I think that's a good practice for anyone to apply to their lives. And that's another lesson that we can apply through Stoicism. And finally, the last lesson is practice gratitude in your life. How do we do that? Focusing on what you have and not what other people have. Theodore Roosevelt had a great quote, and it is, "Comparison is the thief of joy." And that hit home for me, because in this culture that we live in now, where everything is all about social media, about reach and exposure, and about keeping up with the Joneses, we can get lost in all of that. And I truly believe that some of the happiest people in the world live modestly. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be a hermit, and I'm not saying that you don't need to capitalize on opportunities that you have. I live in America. I'm in a capitalistic society. I'm not going to say that money is not important and it's not useful, because it is. However, a Stoic principle that we could apply to our lives is look at the bigger picture. How much money do you really need to live and to thrive, to really live a fruitful and a valuable life for you and your family? It's probably not as much as you would think based on what you see on social media. So have gratitude for what you have. Appreciate the people that you have in your life. Spend time with people who matter to you. This is a Stoic principle that could get lost, but I think if applied to anyone's life, it could only add value to you and your family at the end of the day. Some quotes that come to mind that speak about this matter is this. Epictetus, he says, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." It's not what you possess. Seneca also says, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." That one goes without saying. So in summary, we have 5 lessons here, and if they're applied to your life, we'll go back through them. So lesson number 1, focus on what you can control. A huge pillar of Stoicism is focusing not on externals, but on what you can control. If you do this, you can live in the moment and you can control your own destiny. 2, embrace adversity, embrace challenges, embrace the tough road. Shout out to Ryan Holiday. The obstacle is the way, and the way is how we move forward. Lesson number 3, accept reality as it is. Living in reality is a surefire way to be present, to live in the moment, and not get sidetracked with all of the nonsense, the interference, the external factors that we have going on in our lives. Number 4, be self-aware. Recognize your strengths and weaknesses. Focus on self-improvement. What can you do to improve by one degree each and every day? This is how we move forward. This is how we continue to develop as people. 5, practice gratitude in your lives. Focus on what you have, not on what somebody else has. Epictetus said it in so many words, and I'm kind of butchering it now, but he talks about the concept of whatever is somebody else's, whatever somebody else has going on in their life is their business and it's their concern and none of yours. Focus on what is in your control. It'll be better for you in your life, and you will be able to go on well with that type of approach. If you enjoyed this content, and only if you enjoyed this content, do me a favor as it helps out. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. My name's Monte Lee. This is the Carrot Juice Podcast. And if you want more life lessons, self-improvement, productivity content, you know where to find it. It'll be right here on the channel. And until next time, peace.